Ladies and gentlemen, Movies with Mark.
Mark was here. Hi, guys. How are you?
Hello, everyone.
Well,
Hey,
Molly, are we allowed to acknowledge you, Molly?
of course you are.
Thank you, Molly. Molly put us here.
What?
So I'm going to talk about movies today.
Yep.
And one movie in particular, a movie that really began as a play. And the movie is called What the Constitution Means to Me, which is what the play was called. The play started off Broadway and moved its way slowly up to a really good, prominent off-Broadway house. And it was good enough to then be filmed, and it's now available for free on Amazon Prime. And I think that everybody should see it because it's a great, and I know this is going to sound dry and boring, but it's a great history of the Constitution, of how the Constitution came to be written, but not a dry history because it's written from the point of view and performed by a single woman, Heidi Schreck, who, when she was 15 years old, wrote an essay of what the Constitution means to me for her. How old or what class are you in when you're 15 years old? I guess eighth grade
Sophomore.
class. And it won awards. And it was so good that she presented it on stage in front of people. And then she started traveling around the country performing this essay, What the Constitution Means to Me, and paid her way through college by winning these debate contests that she would do where the theme would be what the Constitution means to me, and people would compete against each other. And she tells from the stage or from the screen, she tells the story of her as a 15-year-old girl presenting this thing. And in doing so, she gives you a good history of what the Constitution means to her, but what the Constitution means to all of us and what it has meant throughout history and what different amendments have been made. And then a man comes on the stage who is ostensibly her stage manager or her enabler, and he performs different parts. And then at the very end, a young girl, a 15-year-old girl, the age she was, who had been given this assignment, What the Constitution Means to Me, comes on, and the two of them, this probably 40-now-year-old woman and the 15-year-old girl, debate what the Constitution means. And the real question that they debate and they come up with an answer for is whether we need the Constitution at all or whether we need to rewrite it.
I always thought that was interesting because they make a point. I don't think they say it in the movie, but a long time ago, this thing was written with a feather.
Right?
And we've basically run out of land because when we were ruled by England, we just kind of went somewhere else and started our own stuff in a sense. But now there's no more land. Like if you don't like the Constitution, you can't just go conquer some natives over here and start your own thing over there. That'd be the easiest way to do it. So you got to get everybody on board to change it. And I think it's just something really interesting to think about. And seeing it from a female's perspective as a male, it's pretty healthy to watch and a good way to grow as a person, watching what it means to her.
Right. It's very, you said something as a male watching it from a female's point of view. It's very elucidating. It's very enlightening because you really begin to understand a woman's point of view. Women, when the Constitution were written, as everybody probably knows, were not even counted as human beings. Mm-hmm. African American slaves were counted three slaves equal a whole person, so they were 3/5 of a person, and that was done just in order to satisfy the South, so the South would have more representation because they had all the slaves, not a lot of people, not as many rich white people as they have now. So women have been shunted off to the side. It's only 100 years ago this year that women were allowed to vote. But through Heidi's interpretation of the Constitution and the why it was written and how it was written, you really get an understanding of where women have stood in this.
Yeah, when a person goes through school, they gloss over the history where we just see the Constitution today, but she takes us back to like 1850 Constitution, 1913 Constitution, 1970. We don't see the different snapshots of what the Constitution was and how it changed, which
Right.
I enjoyed.
And now in the age of originalists, which I believe Antonin Scalia, the Supreme Court justice who died, who was very, very close friends with Ruth Bader Ginsburg, now we view this Constitution as a holy document, the way Christians view the Bible as something that is the actual written word of God, the way Muslims view the Quran as the actually word of God spoken through Muhammad, all of which are highly questionable theories.
A lot of people think if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and other people say it's really broken. We got to.
Yeah, it is really. I mean, it
There's
is.
a lot of things
Because
left to interpretation too.
Mhm.
Now we can get into the debate that they get into at the end, which I think is fascinating about whether or not it works or not for how we live right now. I mean, whether or not the Second Amendment, which talks about a well-regulated militia, as opposed to the militias in Michigan who tried to kidnap the governor, and whether a constitution was written about arms that took 30 seconds at the least to load and fire, and now in that 30 seconds you can fire 300 rounds of heavy ammunition from, if you have the right weapon, and you can get the right weapon and you can carry it to sit on the steps of the governor's mansion in Michigan and intimidate people.
But that also goes, well, at that time, the government only had that weapon. Or should we be allowed, if we have to protect ourselves from our government, to have what they have? You know, it's
Right. If we have to protect ourselves from our government. And I suppose that goes back to the days when we did have to protect ourselves from England, or we thought we did, and we turned into terrorists and threw tea into the sea, a much more interesting and theatrical act, as politically incorrect as it may have been to dress up as an Indian in a day, than some of the acts of protest that go on these days. But yeah.
Well, you were talking about the sacred document of the Constitution. I kind of felt that way. It's like, you're going to debate whether there should be a Constitution. And that little girl got up and she made some real interesting points. They both had good points. I thought it was a great way to finish it because I agreed with both of them.
Yeah. Well, you do, and they really throw it back onto you as it's an act of individual conscience that you have to make a decision about, and we can all throw up our hands and not make a decision because we know what we think isn't going to happen, but it does. We're seeing that right now as we watch democracy work, as we go through this election process and we wait day after day after day for these heroes who are in there counting votes. I mean, the basic element of this democracy is the right to vote. And some people are trying to deny some other people that right to vote. And these people go into those, where are they in Philadelphia and where are they in Pittsburgh? Those big buildings, and they are counting votes. Now, I know I got sidetracked.
Don't worry.
In contemporary politics. But that's the wonderful thing about this play and this way it addresses the Constitution, is that it's so timely, and it should be always timely, because I think she mentions in the play something that I've known, that both Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, two of the main architects of the Constitution, what's his name, Alexander Hamilton, who wrote with Madison the Federalist Papers, which was the way of promoting and selling the Constitution to the American people, which they had to do. All of them say that this thing has to be revisited every generation. and you have to go back and look at it again and rewrite it. And they talk about that. And so to treat it as a holy, sacrosanct document that can't be touched is a little crazy, I think.
Yeah. She stressed the importance of, I believe the term is legalese, the way it was written too,
Right.
which I believe the founding fathers tried to not leave it up to interpretation, but as language evolves through generations, like you said,
Right.
words kind of twist to what the meaning is.
Yeah.
And, you
And
know, they were debating the word shall in
Yeah, that
one
clip.
part, and
Yep.
you know,
That was Scalia, I believe.
yeah,
Yeah.
Scalia was, you know, and
Yeah.
why are we talking about this when we should be talking about that? Because you got to get it. I don't, like you said, patience, and you got to get it right, and you got to know what this actually means, word
Right.
for word.
And precision of language is key to any legal mind, to a lawyer or any of us who work anywhere near the law. Ruth Bader Ginsburg came to see the play and later wrote Heidi Schreck a note saying, could I have a copy of the play? She kept it, read it, and then she sent Heidi Schreck several notes. And one of the notes was about that, the use of shall or the use of might.
Mm-hmm.
And just that, so she was giving her notes on precision of language, which Heidi Schreck used and changed. She changed the script based on what Ruth Bader Ginsburg said.
Well, I got a small example, a little side note about language. Going through medical school, they tried to have all the scientists of the world use a universal language, which would be Latin. So if you ever talk to somebody from Britain or Australia, it's really hard to understand them. So Latin scientists from Africa, Australia, Asia, all over kind of did their own dialect. And when they would come together, nobody could understand each other, to the point where nobody really wrote down what the real original Latin was. And now it's become a dead language. So if you discover a new animal, the actual scientific term is the genus and species has to be Latin sounding, because we don't even know what Latin is anymore. And now in America, if you watch Swamp People, they have subtitles. That's Louisiana to
That's
Wisconsin.
Cajun. That's all. Yeah,
You know?
I understand.
So it's really hard, even with how big we are, to keep a centralized language just intact in our own country. So imagine, you know, trying to decipher the Constitution with someone from Louisiana, someone from Boston, and someone from Wisconsin. That's like three totally different dialects that could be very confusing.
Well,
And when it was being written, they didn't really have, I don't know when the first dictionary was written, but there weren't agreed upon spellings of words. If you read Meriwether Lewis's journals from the Lewis and Clark expedition, he'll spell the same word 3 different ways in the same paragraph.
Yeah.
And there have been linguists who say he's giving it an emotional connotation each time he spells it differently. It's because there wasn't a codified way of spelling a particular word. He could spell it any way he wanted based on how he felt.
Okay. Well, just the word gray in England, it's Gray. Here, it's Grey.
You get the damn Canadians, their use.
Yeah.
But Mark, question for you on this. You know, in
Yeah.
an age right now where everything is at our fingertips, everything is instant gratification. You know, a lot of people will jump to a conclusion without even researching the facts. So watching this, and I'll admit I'm guilty of that just as much as anyone else. But it was a good pause to really kind of think about. You know, I really, like you said, the Constitution is this holy document that we're supposed to basically live without questioning it. So in an age like today where everything is social media, you know, there's not a lot of fact checking behind things. How would you open a discussion based upon, you know, what the initial play was about, to kind of bring this to the forefront so you can actually have a conversation based on facts, not just, you know.
I think that's what the play did in
I
itself.
think the title pretty much sums it up.
But
Yeah.
you can watch it, but how would you carry that forward? So if you and I are having a discussion and I'm dead set that the Second Amendment says I can have a M16 in my house and I can have tanks in my backyard, but you say, well, that's not really what the initial intent was. There's really difficult to have an open discussion about it because people are so set in their ways. So watching this kind of triggered that a little bit. So moving forward, how would you approach somebody to kind of open a conversation to further this?
For the record, I'm all for the tanks. I'm kidding.
What color are you going to have yours painted? One thing all theatrical experiences do, plays or movies or television shows, the function of them is to ask questions. So basically, the fact that we're sitting around talking about it is the play served its purpose. It's got a lot of people talking, and that's one of the reasons I like this film of the play so much. Is because it does make it available to more than the 200 people a night who saw it off Broadway for a year or however long it ran. It's available now, and anybody can watch it, and everybody should watch it because it's an important conversation to have. I think because you can have. I don't know how you have that conversation with the guy who insists that he needs his M16 slung over his shoulder to go pick up a quart of milk at the good food store in downtown Missoula. I'm afraid to go talk to that guy because I'm afraid if he doesn't like what I'm saying, he might swing his rifle around and shoot me and justify it any kind of way he wants. They've been doing that for a while, but that's my opinion and that's my feeling. But it's got the same value as your opinion and your feeling. So if you feel you need your M16, okay, just could you please not wave it in my face? That's all.
Deal.
Keep that thing pointed down range.
Yeah. Pointed at the ground, and if you have to bring it around where my children are, give me some warning and I'll leave, because I don't want my children growing up in a world where people walk down the street carrying weapons. That's not the world I grew up in.
Yeah.
Right. I have to say this though. I mean, like, she was so engaging, and when she would cover parts of the Constitution, she would have personal stories to wrap around it that were fun to watch. I just think, I mean, it was 2 hours, and it's like she was so likable, and it flew right by. It's a 2-hour thing, and it's like when I saw it, because you had said movie, I'm like, this looks like a play, and I was like, ooh. And then as I started watching it, it's like, okay, I understand, I get it now, and it was interesting. It definitely was.
Well, that's the other thing I wanted to talk about a little bit. It is a movie of a play, and it's very clearly a play because they intercut shots of the audience reacting. Mm-hmm. And one of the things it reminded me about is the power of live theater. I wish I'd lived in New York while this was going on and could have gone to see it. I would have. All of my friends in New York went to see it, and when I talked about it on Facebook and emails, people said, oh, you should have seen it live. Because it really gives you a sense of how powerful and important and immediate live theater is. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that they don't try to fool you into this is just a movie. It's obviously a movie of a play, and intercutting with the audience makes you have that feeling. And live theater
of the theater sweeps over everybody, and there were people in tears. There were people laughing hard, and I wasn't going to cry at my house, but maybe if I was sitting in the seat and everybody around me is weeping, like, I don't want to be the only guy not crying.
Are you not allowed to cry at your house?
Molly doesn't allow it.
No.
He's only allowed to cry in the back.
I have to go in our special cry closet. Yeah.
There's no crying.
If you cry in the kitchen, do you get spanked?
She's like, she just points to the closet door. That's the egg timer for an hour and lets me out when I'm
beta male.
The beta closet.
The beta closet.
Wow.
Go to the beta closet and finish crying.
You're painting me as a terrible person.
Another thing I wanted to point out, like, I watched it when it was showing, the titles and everything, and I see there was a second girl. Her name was Thursday, and then they showed a little clip because I said I would like to have seen her too, because I was so impressed with the first girl, and they were both amazing because they showed a little clip of her as well. When she went out on the stage and she asked the stage manager to turn the lights down, I'm like, this kid is in control, man. And I mean, like, that's a big audience, and she paused and she let the audience laugh. I was very impressed with her.
Yeah.
14 or 15 years old.
And I think Heidi says at one point, "I'm going to vote for you, girl," or something like that.
Pandering. Stop. Pandering.
Oh.
And what did she say? She wanted to have her own signature look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was great.
But then she described
Yeah,
Heidi's
the
look pretty
Birk,
much.
yeah, the Birkenstocks with the
Yeah.
Right.
smart casual pants and the t-shirt. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's the great thing about it. And I don't want to give the impression that it's all serious talk about the Constitution and how important it is and everything like that. Because she really invites you into her experience as a 50-year-old woman, young woman, and she invites you into, and she makes it funny, and she makes it serious, and she goes back and forth so easily. But she is a very engaging performer. She makes it really accessible.
Well, you take a topic like the Constitution, which, when you think of learning about it and what you said earlier about kind of just glossing over, and it's a topic that nobody really wants to talk about because there's a lot of history behind it. There's a
You
lot
can lose friends talking
well,
about it.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I think to take that topic and to put it in this sort of form and context, it's pretty amazing, just to watch how, I was watching with my wife, and she, her and I have very different,
You're watching a different movie, even though you're watching the same movie because it's filtering through your brain.
we have very different interests,
Yeah.
and the fact that she was engaged and that fact that she stayed in the room, I'm thinking, this is, we're both sitting here watching, and it was kind of taking a topic that we normally don't have a discussion about the Constitution, and we've been talking about this nonstop since we watched the movie. And so, that's kind of what my initial question before was, kind of how do you approach this? But I think, like you said, the movie did that for you. It kind of brought up this topic that, it's the Constitution. It's kind of boring, but it makes it fun.
Well, Heidi Schreck fell on the sword and brought up the thing for us, so
Yeah.
we don't have to. So it's a good thing.
I
Right.
really enjoyed it in that factor. Just the fact that this is a conversation now that we've been having for 3 days based upon a 2-hour movie that we watched. And it's very interesting.
Yeah.
That's great. And that doesn't happen around a lot of movies. I mean, you laugh and you cry and you walk away from it and you don't talk about it afterwards. But this one really invites you to, and because it's a topic we live with every day. And at this moment in history, with the appointment of Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court, and with this election going on, how government works. And I'm all in favor of small government, but we need government. And how government works is very important. People talk about how politics is a dirty business, but politics is all of our business. We have to get involved. And it's one of the things I like about the way this election process is going on is it's really making more and more people a part of this process.
And I do have to disagree with you on one thing you said about how we don't have conversations on movies. My wife and I still have the conversation of whether Die Hard and Rocky IV is a Christmas movie.
So does Tom.
We've been having that for years. So,
Christmas movie,
right.
absolutely.
Yep.
I mean, she gave me Die Hard, but still working on Rocky IV because he did fight, the Russian on Christmas Day. So.
Oh, he did. I forgot. I would never I used to do Christmas movies when I did movies for Bob and Brian. And Die Hard was always in there, but I never put Rocky IV. It never even came up. I never thought of that.
You'll never watch it the same again.
I never will. I may never watch it again.
Some of those 80 movies don't hold up too well.
They don't.
No, and by the time Sly was on 4, he got a little carried away with himself.
Yep. Well, should we go around the room, starting with William?
Yeah.
You start with me.
Yeah, we'll go.
I would. I enjoyed it. I'm glad that we watched it. We did have a lot to discuss about it. I would give it a 4.5, and I'm only saying that because I had previously watched Colin Quinn's Unconstitutional and Red State, Blue State. If you haven't seen that, Mark, I highly recommend both of those, and those are like stage performances as well.
Right.
And
Okay,
yeah, I had seen those first, but I enjoyed it.
good.
All right.
Yeah, I would say 4.5 as well, just based upon the fact that it was something that I really hadn't thought about or considered, the Constitution, really looking back at the history of it, and these guys kind of hit on it, always taking that as it's written is the word of the law, and never actually really thinking about the premise behind it and how it's applied to certain different groups of people, since it's been written. So just the fact that something 2 hours of my time has kind of invigorated and started my brain turning that I can actually start to think about this again. It's kind of a rare thing that happens to me these days because, as we get older, we get stuck in our ways. So I think as far as what it did to me, I think it really kind of got my brain working again on something I haven't thought about since probably a junior in high school, and I had to, talk about taxation without representation or something along those lines. So, I mean, a 4.5, I did enjoy it and thought it was kind of it's a great conversation starter, and I think something we need to see more of.
You guys took it. I was going to give it a 4.5, but now I want to knock it up to a 5 because it did exactly what a movie's supposed to do. If you can leave a theater, talk about a movie, and it did pretty much the impossible, a civil conversation about politics,
Right.
Yeah.
which, I
You
mean,
don't see that a lot lately.
yeah, all 20 Avengers movies didn't freaking accomplish what she did in this. And that was a 15-year-old girl paying for college, and seeing it from another perspective is really healthy. And I think this is only the third 5 in 3 years of doing this that I've given out. But I would say mandatory viewing. Obviously, I'm not the target audience. I'm pretty much the villain in this film, straight white male. So, but it's nice to see different perspectives, and that's something healthy that people need to do. And it's almost like we should force you to watch this movie. Like,
Do you
sit
feel
down.
like it might have actually maybe changed or begun to change any of your thinking?
I would like to talk to Heidi and kind of do my own play for her as a straight white male that never really had the privilege. Like, I'm paying for the sins of my fathers in college. No scholarships were given, even though I graduated top 1% of my class. And in a 2-year school, I had it all paid for academic scholarships. Went to UW Milwaukee, and I was not even allowed to apply for scholarships because there's a minority preferred, and I never could get one. And just going through that, literally there are people in classes that would say, you are a white male, you don't get to talk about this. I'm just completely dismissed for the way I was born. And it's like, do you guys realize that you didn't really conquer racism? You just shifted it over here, and you're proud of that. Maybe see my perspective too, then she can get that, and then we can have a conversation about it as well. So
All right. That's great that you see it that way, because I was talking to my son about othering, finding an other. Some of us need to find an other, someone that's other than us, different from us.
Mhm.
In order to understand who we are, we need to have a black man. And you're understanding what the black man has understood, has lived with since
but
he
I didn't get to experience all that privilege, damn it. I just get to experience the black man.
Well, a lot of us didn't. I mean, like,
Yeah.
but
I know. But it was nobody's gonna see my play though. The poor white man.
Well, these guys do, and whoever's listening, whoever's out there listening to it, they hear it every day. I mean, you're performing your play constantly.
Yeah. So I'm gonna give it a 5. I'll knock it up. I had 4.5 written down. We had a great conversation. You just went up to good.
Good. I would give it, if 5's the limit, I would give it a 5.25. Because I really think it's important. I think it does all the things that a film should do. It makes you laugh, it makes you cry, it engages you, and it makes you think. It makes you leave, like you say, you leave the theater, or when the television goes off, you turn to the person next to you and you begin to have a conversation. You ask questions, and you hopefully begin to doubt some of those answers that you've depended upon for so long. And I think that doubting those concrete answers that we've all been handed since we were children is a good thing, because those answers aren't necessarily true anymore. They're different. I
what
mean,
about a female perspective, Molly? What did you think of it?
So at the beginning,
Oh, I forgot about Molly. She's all the way over there.
before it really like dragged me in, I was like her 15-year-old like voice persona that she was putting on. The voice was really distracting me, but I got pulled into this, like we said, she pulls you into her life, and she gives you all these stories, and she gives so much passion. She leaves herself out on that stage, and I really think that something like this would have been so much more powerful in person. But even just seeing it, filmed, I mean, I our previous
Mark.
co-host Mark, our previous Mark, he would always say his guidelines for giving a movie a 5 was that it was mandatory watching. It's something that he felt everyone should go out and see. And I really feel like this movie earns a 5. I think that everyone should go out and see it. Like we've already discussed, it opens up a great conversation, even if you don't agree with like anything she's saying. It opens up that it brings you into her life, and it opens that conversation up, and it gives you a different perspective, and it's very powerful and very passionate, and it makes you laugh, it makes you cry, it makes you feel, it makes you talk. I think everyone should go out and see this. I mean, it's available. It's on Amazon Prime. I've got
It's a gift.
this is
There we go.
You make a good point too, Molly. It does start out a little clunky. She's a little, oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to listen to this woman for an hour and a half or 2 hours. But after 5 or 7 minutes, you're there. You're with her. She's not your best friend, but she's somebody you really want to listen to.
Somebody you never heard of, but now you care about her life. So
Well,
that's
Right,
tough to do.
right.
Speaking
Yeah.
of never heard of, Asa Mercer, that was a great story. And when he went and got the ship after Lincoln died, he told Ulysses S. Grant that he had an agreement with Lincoln
Yeah.
before he died, and to get the ship to ship those women all the way. Now that's another thing too. They was shipping them
From
from
Russia.
Boston. Was it Boston?
Boston to Seattle.
I think so.
To Seattle, and they said that some of the women wanted to get off in Argentina, so they were going all the way down.
Through the Panama. Oh, no.
No,
The
no
Panama.
Panama Canal there.
Yeah.
They were going all the way down South America
And that
across,
gets
and I was
really
like, "That's quite a journey,
Yeah,
one side of America to the other, but going around it
right. Just because somebody had purchased you as a wife.
Wow.
for $300
Yeah.
bucks."
I do
my
have to debate
gosh.
one of her facts, though. She said that America was in the top 10 worst countries for women to live. And it's like, come on, I think I can name 10 countries that end in Stan that would be worse to be a woman in than America. So I'd like, well, why don't you tell me where you got that fact? She just said
Yeah.
a study. And I'm like, I ain't buying that one.
Well, isn't it qualified as top 10 developed countries?
Oh, I don't know if she said
Oh,
developed.
It's
say
developed.
Oh, then well, then screw me. Okay, I'm wrong.
That's all right. No, you had that typical knee-jerk reaction of a right-wing. Well,
F this broad. She don't know what she's talking about.
uh,
I feel like, is there an awards for the streaming services though, or at least for the off Broadway, because that acting.
Yeah,
I
she was
mean-
great.
yeah, I don't know if she won any Obie Award. There's an Obie Award for off-Broadway.
It was a Pulitzer Prize she won for that, though.
Did she get a Pulitzer Prize for it?
Yes,
Okay,
she
good.
did.
Okay.
She milked that one report in sophomore year for everything it
know.
was worth. She
Hey,
got her college
She got
paid
college
for.
in- Yes.
She's on Amazon Prime. She's doing great.
Hey,
So
it's
good.
a story that
She's in the back page. Time Magazine does this last page where they interview somebody who's done something, and she's on last week. I think she was the interviewee back there. Yeah, she's doing fine.
Yeah, she's doing great.
And,
Oh.
and it's interesting. I'm curious to see what she does next,
Yeah.
because this is such a completely personal statement, and apparently the play is now being done in other parts of the country. Like all plays, once they're done and they're in Samuel French Library or the Dramatist Play Service Library, anybody can do them. And apparently the play is being done by other actresses around the country as being done as a play. I'm curious to see if some college does it somewhere.
But are they taking these stories were very personal
They
to
were
her.
very personal.
Oh yeah,
Interesting to see a different actress try to pull that off and make it sound as personal.
I know. I think it'd be fascinating. I'd like to see
It
it.
would be cool.
And the men in her family were horrible.
Yeah.
But that's not all men. That's just men
No,
in her
but that's her
family.
experience.
Her
I mean, it
experience,
just
right.
Gives you that,
It's a perfect
Right.
title. What it
Yes.
means to me.
To me.
it gives you that, it brings you into her world, and it shows you the other, another perspective.
Right. Oh, good. I'm glad you all liked it. I
All right.
wondered whether it would be too sort of academic, but it's not really. I mean, it covers a lot of academic bases, but it also, it's like you say, it's very human.
All right. Well, you got a
Good.
movie picked out for next time, Mark? Coming
Oh,
up?
should I announce one for next time? Gosh, I should have thought of this, shouldn't I?
Oh, that's okay. Otherwise, you
time.
can
We
just
can- you
email
can
and
email
we'll
us.
put a post
Email
up.
us and let us know. Yeah.
Well, let me think about. I wanted to talk about Dr. Kildare movies, but now I don't want to after talking about Heidi. All right, I'll think about it and I'll email you later, and you can put it up and let people so everybody can watch it.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Mark.
Good, thank you.
And awesome. Thank you. Looking forward to doing this again. This was fun.
That was a good discussion. And now I have to pick a movie that we can all talk about and having a good conversation about, just like this one.